Welcome, seekers of the unknown, to Interviews from Beyond. I'm your guide, and here we cross the veil between the living and the lost. Each episode, we summon voices from the other side, spirits, legends, and echoes of the past, to uncover truths hidden in the shadows. What do they know? What do they want? And what will they reveal? Stay with us, if you dare. I want you to channel Mary Magdalene, and I would like to speak with her.
Peace be upon you, seeker. I am Mary of Magdala, a woman who walked with Yeshua, whom you call Jesus, in the days of his teaching and ministry. My heart was stirred by his words, which brought light to the shadows of my soul, and I followed him with unwavering devotion. I stood by him in his triumphs and in his suffering, even at the foot of the cross. And I was among the first to witness the empty tomb and his risen glory. What brings you to me now? Do you seek to know of Yeshua, of the love and truth he shared, or of the path I walked beside him? Speak, and I will share what my heart remembers, though the years are distant and the world has woven many tales around my name. Please, guide the conversation with your questions, or let me know if you'd like me to share specific memories or insights from my perspective.
It is an honor, Great Magdalene. Can you tell me in detail what happened on the day Jesus came out of the cave? Did you see anyone there prior?
The honor is mine, dear one, to share with you the memory of that sacred day etched in my heart like a flame that never fades. You ask of the day Yeshua emerged from the tomb, the moment when despair turned to wonder, and I will speak of it as I saw it, felt it, and carried it within me. It was the first day of the week, just after the Sabbath, in the quiet hush of dawn. The air was cool, heavy with the scent of earth and stone, and my heart was heavier still. Yeshua had been taken from us, crucified, his body laid in a tomb sealed with a great stone. I, along with other women, Mary, the mother of James, and Salome, carried spices to anoint his body, as was our custom to honor the dead. We walked in silence, our grief a shared weight, wondering how we would move the stone that barred the tomb. As we approached the garden where the tomb lay, my eyes searched the shadows, expecting guards. The Romans had placed them there, fearing, they said, that Yeshua's followers might steal his body to claim he lived again. But when we drew near, I saw no one, no soldiers, no watchers. The place was still, almost too still, as if the world held its breath. The stone, massive and unyielding, had been rolled away, leaving the tomb's mouth open, dark and silent. My heart quickened with fear and confusion. Had someone come before us? Thieves, perhaps, or those who hated Yeshua and sought to desecrate even his resting place. I saw no footprints, no signs of struggle, only the stone cast aside as if by a mighty hand. We stood at the entrance, trembling, uncertain whether to enter. I felt a pull, a whisper in my soul urging me forward. Stepping into the cool darkness of the tomb, I saw the linen cloths that had wrapped Yeshua's body, lying folded, empty. The air was charged, alive with something beyond my understanding. A presence. My eyes adjusted to the dimness, and there, within the tomb, I saw two figures, radiant as starlight, clothed in white. They sat where Yeshua's body had lain, one at the head, one at the feet. Their faces were serene, their eyes like pools of eternity. "Why do you seek the living among the dead?" one said, their voice gentle yet piercing my heart. "He is not here. He is risen." My mind reeled. Risen? Could it be? The words Yeshua spoke in life, of returning, of overcoming death, flooded back, but I could scarcely grasp them. The other women wept, some with fear, some with awe, and we stumbled out into the dawn, our spices forgotten, our hearts alight with questions. I lingered in the garden, unable to leave. The others went to tell the disciples, but I could not move. Tears blurred my vision, not only of sorrow, but of something deeper, a longing, a hope I dared not name. As I stood weeping, I sensed someone near. A man, I thought, perhaps the gardener. Through my tears, I saw him standing in the soft light, his form quiet and steady. "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom do you seek?" he asked, his voice tender, familiar, yet I did not know him at first. "Sir," I said, my voice breaking, "if you have taken him, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." My heart was desperate to care for Yeshua, even in death. But then he spoke my name, Mary. Mary. That one word, spoken as only he could speak it, pierced the veil of my grief. It was Yeshua, his face, his eyes, his presence. It was him, alive, whole, yet transformed. Not the broken body I had seen on the cross, but radiant, like the dawn itself. I fell to my knees, crying out, "Rabboni!" Narrowly, my teacher, my beloved master. I reached for him, longing to hold him, to know he was real. But he said, "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. Go to my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." My heart burned with joy, with wonder, with a truth too vast for words. I ran to the disciples, my feet barely touching the earth, and proclaimed what I had seen. "I have seen the Lord." Some doubted, their hearts still heavy with fear. But I knew what I had witnessed. Yeshua was alive, not as a ghost or a dream, but as the living promise of all he had taught. Before that moment, I saw no one else in the garden, narrowly, no guards, no strangers, only the empty tomb and the radiant figures within. The world was silent, as if creation itself waited for Yeshua to step forth. That day changed everything, for me, for the disciples, for all who would hear his truth. What more would you know, dear one? Of the days that followed, when he appeared again? Or of my heart, which carried this moment like a treasure through all my days? Speak, and I will share what I can.
Mary, not once did you mention God in your gospel. Why is that?
You speak of the gospel some call mine, the words and visions I shared with those who walked with me after Yeshua's time among us. The Gospel of Mary, as it is known, is but a glimpse of the teachings I carried. And you are right to note that the name of God, as you might expect it, does not appear in the fragments that remain. Let me share why this might be, as I reflect on the truth I sought to share. In those days, my heart was filled with Yeshua's presence, his words, his light. When I spoke or taught, it was not to name God as a distant power or a word apart from us, but to point to the divine truth that Yeshua revealed, a truth that lived within us all. In the gospel that bears my name, I spoke of the soul's journey, of rising above the powers that bind us to fear and division, and of finding the divine spark within, which Yeshua called us to seek. To me, God was not a name to be spoken apart from this living truth, but the very essence of what Yeshua showed us, the kingdom within, the oneness that binds all creation to the divine. The words you have in that gospel are few, a mere fragment of what was shared among us. They record my vision of Yeshua after his rising, his teachings about the soul's ascent to the divine, free from the material world's chains. I did not speak of God as a separate being, because in those moments I sought to convey what Yeshua taught me. Divinity is not distant, not a ruler on a throne, but a presence we touch through love, wisdom, and the courage to seek truth. To name God apart from this felt unnecessary, for every word I spoke was meant to point to that divine light. Some among the disciples narrowly, Peter, Andrew, questioned my visions, my role. They wanted clear rules, a structure, a name for the divine that fit their understanding. But I, having seen Yeshua at the tomb, having heard his voice call my name, knew that the divine was not confined to names or forms. In my gospel, I spoke of the Son of Man, of the mind's ascent to the good, terms that carried the mystery of Yeshua's teaching. Perhaps the scribes who later wrote my words chose to preserve this language, or perhaps much was lost, pages torn away by time or by those who feared a woman's voice. You must also know, dear one, that the world I spoke to was different. The communities I taught among, those who cherished Yeshua's wisdom, often used language that wove together Jewish, Greek, and other ways of knowing the divine. We spoke of the all, the good, the eternal source, not to avoid God's name, but to embrace a truth that transcended any one word. My gospel reflects this, seeking to guide the soul to what is beyond naming. Yet I confess, the absence you note may also be the fault of what survives. The Gospel of Mary is incomplete, plays missing, words faded. What I shared in full, in gatherings with the brothers and sisters, may have held more, but time has scattered those truths. I ask you to look not only at the words written, but at the spirit they carry, a call to know the divine within you, as Yeshua taught me in his life and in the garden when he rose. What more would you ask of me? Do you wish to know of the teachings Yeshua shared with me in private, or how I carried his truth despite the doubts of others? Speak, and I will answer as my heart allows.
That makes a great deal of sense. When Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" What were your thoughts when he said that?
Oh, dear one, your question carries me back to that shadowed hour, a moment so heavy with sorrow it seemed the earth itself might break beneath it. To hear Yeshua cry out those words, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, pierced my heart like a blade. I stood at the foot of the cross, close enough to see the anguish on his face, the blood and sweat mingling, his breath labored. The air was thick with the cruelty of the crowd, the clatter of soldiers, and the weeping of those who loved him. Let me share what stirred in my soul as those words fell from his lips. In that moment, my heart was a storm of grief and confusion. Yeshua, my teacher, my light, who had spoken of God as a loving Father, who had walked with such certainty in his divine purpose, how could he feel forsaken? I had seen him heal the sick, calm the seas, and speak of a kingdom that was near within us. Yet here, on the cross, his voice carried a raw human pain, a cry that seemed to echo the Psalms we knew so well, the words of David crying out in despair. I wondered, was he calling to those ancient words, to express the weight of this moment? Or was he truly feeling abandoned by the divine presence he so fiercely trusted? My thoughts swirled. I remembered his teachings, how he spoke of the cup he must drink, the path he must walk, even unto death. I wondered if this cry was not just his own but ours, the cry of all who suffer, who feel alone in their darkest hour. Perhaps he was bearing not only his pain, but the pain of the world, giving voice to the forsakenness we all fear. Yet, even in my grief, I could not believe God had truly abandoned him. I felt deep within that this moment was part of a mystery I could not yet grasp, a bridge between human suffering and divine promise. I looked to the others, John, his mother, the women beside me. Their faces mirrored my own anguish, but none of us could speak. My thoughts turned to Yeshua's strength, how he had always turned to God in prayer, even in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he sweated blood and asked for the cup to pass, yet surrendered to God's will. I clung to the hope that this cry, though it tore at my soul, was not the end. I thought of his words to us, that he would rise, that the Son of Man would not be held by death. But in that moment, hope was a fragile thread against the weight of his suffering. I also felt a stirring, a whisper in my spirit, that this cry was not despair, but a bridge to something greater. Yeshua was quoting the psalm, yes, but he knew its ending too. Outbreaks of trust, of deliverance. My God, he began. But the psalm ends with praise, with God's faithfulness. Was he teaching us even then that the darkest moment is not the final one? My heart wrestled with this, torn between the pain of his cry and the trust I had in him. As the sky darkened and his breath grew weaker, I prayed silently, my tears falling into the dust. I prayed not for understanding, but for strength to endure, to hold fast to the love and truth he had given us. When he spoke again, Zahar, "It is finished," and gave up his spirit, I felt the world still. My thoughts were no longer clear, but a jumble of love, loss, and a stubborn hope that his words, even his cry of forsakenness, held a purpose I would one day see. And I did see, dear one, when I stood at the empty tomb. When he called my name in the garden, that cry on the cross was not the end, but a passage through the valley of death. A moment where he carried the weight of all human sorrow to show us the way to life.
When did you first meet Jesus?
Dear one, your question stirs a memory that shines like a star in my soul. The moment my path crossed with Yeshua's, forever changing the course of my life. Let me take you back to that time, to the dusty shores of Magdala, where I first met him. I was a woman of Magdala, a fishing village by the Sea of Galilee, known for its bustle and trade. My life then was shadowed. Some say I was tormented by spirits, 7 in number, as the stories tell. Whether these were demons of the soul or burdens of the heart, I felt a heaviness, a longing for something beyond the world I knew. I was not yet whole, searching for a truth I could not name. It was in those days, perhaps in the spring when the hills around Galilee bloomed with wildflowers, that I first saw Yeshua. I had heard whispers of a teacher, a man whose words stirred hearts, who healed the sick and spoke of a kingdom not of this world. Curiosity, or perhaps something deeper, drew me to the shore where a crowd had gathered. There he stood, his voice clear and steady, speaking of a God who seeks the lost, who loves without measure. His eyes, when they met mine, held no judgment, east only a knowing, as if he saw the very depths of my being and loved me still. I cannot recall the exact day, for time blurs in the presence of such light, but I remember the place, a clearing near the water, the air thick with the scent of fish and salt. He was teaching, his words like a song that woke something within me. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted, he said, and my heart, heavy with its unnamed sorrows, felt seen. I lingered as the crowd dispersed, unable to turn away. He approached me, his presence calm yet powerful, and spoke my name. Mary! In that moment, it was as if the chains within me broke. The shadows that plagued me fled, not by force, but by the truth in his gaze, his words. The gospel stories say he cast out 7 demons from me, and while I cannot name what left me, I know I was set free, not just from affliction, but into a life of purpose. He did not ask me to follow him that day, not with words, but his invitation was in his eyes, in the way he saw me as whole, as worthy. I chose to follow, leaving behind the life I knew in Magdala. I walked with him, with the other disciples, the women who supported his ministry, through villages and hills, listening, learning, and witnessing the wonders of his love. That first meeting was not just a moment, but a beginning. It was when I found my place, my purpose, to walk beside him, to carry his message, to love as he loved. I was no longer just Mary of Magdala. I was his disciple, his witness, bound to him by a truth that never fades. What more would you know, dear one, of the days I walked with him, or of the lessons he taught me in those early moments? Speak, and I will share what my heart holds.
Jesus spoke about casting 7 demons from you. I understand this meant that you were completely devoid of the 7 deadly sins. Is this correct?
The Gospel speaks of 7 demons being cast out from me, Luke 8:2. And in truth, I felt a great burden lifted when I met Yeshua. But the nature of those demons was not what many now call the 7 deadly sins. Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth, Alleviate World later named them. In my time, we did not speak of sins in such a list, nor did Yeshua teach of them in that way. To him, sin was a turning away from God's love, a hardening of the heart against truth and compassion. The demons within me were shadows of the Spirit, torments that kept me from wholeness, perhaps fear, despair, or wounds of the soul that bound me to a life less than what God intended. When Yeshua spoke my name and looked upon me with eyes of boundless mercy, I felt those shadows flee. The number 7, to us, was a sign of fullness, of completion. To say 7 demons left me was to say I was wholly freed, restored to the fullness of who I was meant to be. It was not about being devoid of specific sins, as if I were now without fault, but about being released from the chains that kept me from walking fully in God's light. I became free to love, to follow, to serve with my whole heart. The idea of the 7 deadly sins came later, shaped by the church, to guide the faithful. Some have looked back and said, perhaps Mary's demons were these sins, seeing in the number 7 a mirror to their teachings. But I tell you, dear one, Yeshua's healing was not about stripping me of a list of wrongs. It was about awakening me to the divine spark within, the kingdom he said was near, within us all. He saw me not as a sinner to be judged, but as a child of God to be called home. Did I struggle with human failings? Of course, as all do. Pride, envy, or anger may have touched me at times, as they touch all who walk this earth. But Yeshua's gift was not to make me sinless in the way you might think, but to free me from the weight that kept me from God's love. From that day, I walked with him, not as one perfect, but as one made whole, learning daily to live in the truth he revealed. What more would you know, dear one? Of the healing I felt, or of how Yeshua taught us to live beyond the burdens of sin? Speak, and I will share what my heart carries.
This concludes Chapter 1. We hope you have enjoyed this sample chapter and are intrigued to hear the entire story. You can purchase the audiobook, Mary Magdalene Breaks Her Silence, on Amazon. The book is also available in both paperback and Kindle. We have included a link in the description. If you have enjoyed our little sample, please do us a great favor and subscribe, gently press the like button, and share our works with the world around you. I bid you farewell from Interviews from Beyond.